It's Kyle, and in today's video we're going to be talking about GoPro cases, and mainly we're going to be talking about some different things to look for in a GoPro case when you're getting one. So I do a lot of reviews of GoPro cases, but I still receive a lot of questions from people on which ones should they buy, and I realized that I never really talked about the different features that come of different styles of cases. So I thought we'd do one video that kind of covered the different styles of GoPro cases and some of the things to look for within those styles and some reasons why you might want to consider one over the other. So we're going to go through 3 or 4 main categories, starting with heavy-duty waterproof cases. These are foam-lined, hard-sided, waterproof cases. And then there's kind of slightly rigid cases which are still with foam divider systems, such as the Zinked Case and the Smatree Case. And then there's something like the Ventrue Case, which is a padded case, a soft padded case with some cutouts in it. And then finally, there's something like the Roll Pro from Rice Fuel. And this is a very, very soft case that holds all kinds of GoPro accessories. So we'll talk a little about each one of them and then kind of just leave you with some things to think about and what needs might be met by each of these different options. In terms of hard-sided cases, we're going to be looking at 2, the Smatree GA700 and this Pelican case with a TrekPak insert inside of it. So there's a couple things and a couple reasons why you might want these hard-sided cases. If you really want to make sure your GoPro gear's always protected, it's kind of hard to beat. It doesn't matter what you do to these things, they're basically never going to leak, let dust into your camera, break. They're kind of indestructible, and they've got, most of them, or actually all of them, seem to have this kind of foam cutout, pre-cut inserts inside them so that each camera and each part of your GoPro is held individually in one of these little compartments and it's stopped from banging around. So really kind of the ultimate in protection. However, with anything, it does have its drawbacks. The cases end up being a lot bigger to hold the same amount of gear, and they end up being a lot heavier, a lot bulkier, and they really just don't fit into bags as well. Trying to pack this case, or this case even, into a backpack is very hard. It's got hard sides. It's very hard to maneuver into the case and into the backpack, and it just takes up a lot of room once it's in there. You got to remember, anytime you go with these pre-cut foam inserts, you're going to be losing a lot of volume inside the case. You can see each one of these little foam cutouts does use up a lot of that internal volume of the case. So we're packing things with more protection, but we're also packing things farther apart, meaning that there's less internal space inside of the case. These cases also tend to be fairly expensive. So they're an option, but I really don't tend to recommend these to most people. I think they're a bit of overkill for most, and they're kind of more of a pain to use and a pain to take with you than they're actually really worth. That brings us on to the Cutout Foam kind of semi-rigid sided cases. This one here I've got is this Zinked Case. However, Smatree and POV Gear also make cases that I've reviewed similar to this. And what they tend to have inside is this foam insert, very much like we saw with the hard-sided cases. And again, it has the same drawbacks as those cases, but the same benefits as well. So added protection, and the drawbacks, of course, is that you can see here that a fair amount of space is being taken up by foam instead of camera gear. So this one here holds one GoPro camera as well as a couple of accessories. And the problem with these, and the problem with anything like this, is that unless you have exactly the right things, which these are cut for, in this case, 2 backpacks. Who has 2 backpacks for their GoPro camera? Do you have a GoPro camera and a battery backpack and an LCD screen? You would have been better by another GoPro camera, really. So kind of odd. I don't know many people that have an LCD screen and a battery backpack. Then it's got a full-size SD card slot, and it's got a battery cutout. So a lot of this space here isn't going to be used all the time, and that means it's wasted. So I guess the disadvantage with these, and the reason I'm really not a massive fan of this kind of case, is that, well, I can see a protection benefit from it. I don't really tend to utilize all of the space inside it, and because of that, I tend to find them a little bit of a waste of space. The other thing to watch with these is whether or not they have a zippered pocket at the top. Lots of them do, and that's kind of the way you want to go. This one doesn't, and it's turning out to be a bit of a problem. What happens is if you put nuts or bolts in here, or even USB cables, and you open the case like this, all of those fall out, and then next time you go to close it, you'll still have them falling out. So check the pictures on Amazon or wherever you're buying one of these and make sure it's got that zippered pocket at the top. That brings us on to the third kind of case we're looking at. This is the GoPole Ventrue case, but it represents a kind of padded case with dividers. There's no foam cutouts inside this case. There's just these divider pockets that are kind of soft and padded. This is much more like a traditional camera bag, except for the fact that these dividers are sewn in instead of being Velcroed in. This has proven to be kind of my go-to style of case. I am a fan of it because I don't feel like the internal space of the case is being wasted, and yet I do feel like it adds an adequate amount of protection for my gear to take it everywhere I go every day. So the sides of the case are padded, and the pockets here for the cameras are padded, and they've got nice little bungee straps in here to hold the cameras in place. But what's really nice about it is, for its size, the internal space is almost completely available to use for packing whatever kind of kit you want to pack inside it. And then again, it's got a big zippered pocket at the top, as well as two mesh pockets here, which I've actually been using for hard drives. They're the right size for external hard drives there, which is kind of cool. So then the other thing that's nice with this case, as well as the other kind of rigid, hard-sided, soft-sided case we looked at, the Zinked Case, is that they're much easier to pack in backpacks. Because of this softness, it's amazing how much a little bit of compressibility makes something fit in a backpack. It slides in, it's comfy on your back, you don't have hard edges digging into you. So this is something that I can very comfortably throw in a backpack with lunch if I'm going up skiing, or you can throw in a duffel bag, and I don't really feel like it's going to poke holes in anything or break either anything else in the bag, which is also concerning with those hard-sided cases. If you put one of those in a backpack with lunch for the day, chances are it's going to crush anything in your lunch bag. So again, this is kind of these kind of cases are a fairly solid everyday case, and they're big enough to hold a couple GoPro cameras as well as some larger accessories. So something like this can actually hold a chest mount and a three-way, which is something that can't really be said for those semi-hard-sided cases or some of the hard-sided cases, depending on what size of them you get. This brings us on to our final style of case. This is the Roll Pro 3 from Rice Fuel, and what it is a roll for your camera gear. So you unroll it here, and it's got a whole bunch of little pockets and stuff to hold your camera gear. So at the bottom here, you've got 3 slots for up to 3 GoPro cameras, and then you've got cutouts for different kinds of accessories. You can put back doors in here, you can put, and then these are all for bolts, these are for extender bars, these are for buckle mounts, these pockets are for batteries, LCD screens, spare back doors, and USB cables are up at the top here. So there's a ton of possibilities you can use for mounting this, and the great thing with this one is it rolls up really small, and it changes size depending on how much stuff you put in it. So if all you put in here is 1 GoPro, it's gonna roll up tiny, but it can expand up to 3 cameras, kind of, and hold them fairly comfortably as long as you don't bring too many accessories with you. It's got this super big Velcro closure at the top, which is designed to kind of hold it all together and close it up. And it's just a kind of a unique way of doing storage. It's definitely not for everyone, and I found myself kind of shying away from it now because it is a little bit more of a pain to get stuff out of and put it back into very quickly. It's great for like a one-time setup and a one-time takedown, but I have found that using it kind of, if I need to get something out of it, it's a bit easier just to use a standard case than it is to unroll this. And then also sometimes things fall out of this, but most of the time with these pockets, it's pretty good. There's a couple other brands that make something very similar to this, but they are a very unique case, and definitely in terms of being able to pack them into a backpack or anything like that, it's really hard to beat one of these. The drawback, of course, is that it doesn't hold larger GoPro accessories. You're not going to fit a 3-way in here. You're not going to fit a chest mount. You barely fit a head mount. The only way I've been able to take head mounts or roll bar mounts with me with this case is to actually put them into one of the camera pockets. So if you only have 2 GoPro cameras, you can put a head strap mount and a roll bar mount into one of these pockets, and that will work out okay. But really, it's for cameras, batteries, extension bars, USB cables, and backpacks, and that's about it. More than that, you're going to have to just throw them in your backpack. At the end of the day though, this case is great if you're going to go on a hiking trip and you want to take your GoPro camera with you and you want to just keep it as light as possible. You still want some kind of protection to take it with you. One of these is really, really great because it is small and it is compact and it does roll up and pack away really, really nicely. It's a super tough material on this one that's really durable and it'll put up with almost anything. So it is a great way to store your GoPro gear, and for the right person, this is an absolutely amazing case. That just about concludes my video on the things to consider when you're getting cases. Really, the things that I always recommend people think about are, how is the internal space of the case being used? How does the case that I'm looking at hold the accessories I already own and the ones I'm planning to purchase in the future? And what do I actually want to keep in this case? Because you need to remember, most GoPro accessories are pretty darn tough, and there's like, if you could just buy a lens cap for the camera and put it in a backpack, it's not going to get damaged. The thing's got a waterproof housing that's good to 40 meters. You're probably not going to damage it by putting it in a backpack as long as you've got something over the lens. So keep that in mind as well. Most of these cases, especially these ones, are designed for protection, but you're just protecting a waterproof camera. So it may not be that if you're worried about rain on your gear, you actually need a waterproof case. Now, if you're taking back doors or backpacks with you or batteries or other kinds of sensitive equipment, then maybe one of these is what you need. But just keep in mind, the camera's very tough. The accessories are normally fairly durable. And most of the time, the point of the case is to keep all of your GoPro gear organized and kind of in the same place so it's easy to find. So getting something that holds all of it is a pretty good way to go. I also think people should keep in mind where they're planning to take their case. So if you want to take your case in a backpack, you should get one that works well with the backpack or the bag that you're using. Buying something too big probably isn't going to work that well. And then getting something that's easy to pack and has a good kind of internal use of space, such as one of these two, could be really good if you want to take all of your kit and your case with you whenever you go outside backpacking, and you want to be able to take it with you really easily without having to take a bunch of accessories along with it. So you can just take the case, and you don't have to take the case and a whole bunch of accessories if you had one of these cases and you had a chest mount and a 3-way or something like that. None of them, of course, are going to hold full-size GoPro poles, so you've got to keep that in mind as well. But that was a brief kind of discussion about the kinds of things I would hope people think about when they're going out to buy a GoPro case. There's tons and tons of options out there, and the best part about it is, because the market for this is so big now, there's basically a case at every price point in every one of these categories. If you want a cheap waterproof case, you can probably find one. If you want a cheap roll, you can probably find one. Just keep in mind, guys, that most of the time with this stuff, you do end up getting what you pay for. I've got a cheaper roll, and it's definitely made of a cheaper material, and it doesn't feel quite as premium as the Roll Pro 3. So don't expect the world for nothing, and that's about it. Thanks for watching. This was another GoPro tips and tricks video. If you guys have enjoyed it, please make sure you subscribe, like the video, and check out my channel for tons more videos. Until next time, guys, thank you very, very much for watching.